Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're live taking questions today. Pretty excited to be here. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone's been keeping up the course. And hopefully the stream is going all right. I always have to check. Looks like it's going all right. Cool. Okay. So like usual, let me turn this down just a little bit. Welcome, everybody. Glad you're here. Glad to see everybody. Well, I can't see you, but you can see me. You know what I mean. Before we get started, huge thanks to PaperPot Co. for sponsoring this entire course. You'll hear about them a lot because they sponsor the entire course, but really I can't stress enough how unbelievable this partnership has been and how they're just making this whole thing possible, because I wouldn't be able to just sit here and do this whole course. So big thanks. Go check out what they're up to. Obviously, check out Diego's podcast, Farm Small, Farm Smart. And if you want, we did an episode just before I started the course about what I'm up to and all those sorts of things. There's also a bunch of great information in there. And also, Diego and his team have started putting together resources, if you don't know that, at paperbot.co/Josh. There's written things there to help you out, guides basically that go along with the course. It's also, the course is available in audio form at Diego's podcast, Farm Small, Farm Smart, which you can listen to in podcast players, and you can find it at the website there. So we're trying to make the course as available as possible with as much as possible for the most amount of people. And so, yeah, we're just trying to make sure we give as much as possible. And of course, the course is 100% free. As you know, you just show up and watch, and you can come to these Q&A sessions and ask questions. So remember that this Q&A session will be based on Module 3, which was crop selection and pricing. So I'll take questions that are specific about that stuff. And if there is time at the end, I will take general questions, but I want to make sure that this this Q&A session is specific about that module so that this can be treated more like a course. So keep that in mind. And if you have questions, wait till the end, hang out, and I'll get to them if we have time. But if you have questions in the chat that are unrelated to the module, I will skip over them, and I'll take fresh questions at the end. With that in mind, hopefully you got a chance to watch Module 3. Let's see here. We already got a super chat. See here. Destro, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. With that in mind, guys, if you are looking to support the channel or me in particular, that's a great way to do it. Also, there is a PayPal account set up, which you can see in the description down below in all my videos. If you are wanting to support the channel, no pressure. I will never put anything behind a paywall, but some people were asking me about a way to donate, so that is available. If you guys are interested in anything, it's greatly appreciated. So I appreciate all you guys. But again, no paywalls. Everything is out in the open and on YouTube for you guys to see. So, Destro, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. All right, let's see here. I don't really have anything really to update you in terms of the course. Yeah, I get a little confused because I'm like working on Module 5 right now, and so my brain is kind of in that world. But it's hard for me to stay focused on, what you guys are watching right now. But it's fine. I know all this material, so I made all this stuff up. I didn't make it up. You know what I mean? I put it together. So why don't you guys, if you have any questions about Module 3, remember I talked about how you choose crops and how you are figuring out the pricing. I talked about my pricing and how I figured it out. So maybe you guys, if you have any comments or questions about that stuff, please fire those questions in. Yeah, it's warm here. It's like, it was in the 80s yesterday, and I think it was around 80 today. It's too warm right now. It's weird. Nice, Amanda making some soil blocks. I'm just kind of going through the comments here. Hi, Annie. All right, Sierra, I guess this is related with the beets. So I think I mentioned this in Module 3, but the beets, I offer them both in terms of just the roots or the roots with the greens. And usually the chefs that I've been working with, they actually want the greens as well because they use it, they cook them and put it in other with other braising greens, so like kale and collards and spinach and stuff like that. They'll add that into that. So they actually really enjoy getting the greens. There was a period of time where the greens weren't in great shape. It was either late summer or fall beets where the greens were kind of beat up. So I just topped them and sold the bottoms. But again, it's what your customers want. Like if they want the greens, sell it to them. Obviously, you're going to get more money per bed if you are selling the greens. But if they just want the roots, then just sell them the roots. It is a lot easier to process and store the roots because I just like I do with carrots, I'll just sort of like twist off the top and leave a little bit of the green on the top, wash them, and then bag them up. So it's really easy you don't have to deal with the greens and drying them and all that kind of stuff. So, but again, it's really kind of what the customer wants. Hi, Amanda. Been crazy. I got a lot going on, but happy to be putting this out for everybody. Hi, Andrew. Tiny house. I am organic gardening. Good to see everyone in here. Naked Gardeners, good to see you back. Thanks for coming. All right, let's talk about selling stuff. Here we go. What do I think about selling to top health food stores? You just got to work it out. I mean, if they're offering you something that's competitive, something that you can make a profit on it, absolutely. The problem that I usually find, and I haven't actually sold to retail establishments like supermarkets, health food stores, is that when you're packaging in small quantities, then they're marking it up. So let's say you're selling like a 5-ounce bag of lettuce, for example, which is kind of a common size. If they're selling it in their store for $5, what are they going to give you, right? $3, $2.50? I don't know. You have to figure it out. If you can move a lot of product that way and maybe you have the labor, cool. But think about like when you're putting it in small bags, there's more bags you have to buy. There's a lot more labor. Like I put my lettuce in a 2-pound bag. It's super quick. Like pack it up, close it, it's done. When we used to pack small bags like at Raleigh City Farm or when I was doing home deliveries, it took a long time to pack all those small bags and there's a lot of bags to buy. So if the price works for you, yeah, I mean, that's great. If they're looking to support local food and they're cool people, just, really think through the pricing of it and maybe it works. I haven't gotten into that part of it. The other thing about health food stores, especially if it's a chain or if not, I don't know, you got to think about labels then. And they might be requiring other certifications too, like they might be asking for GAP certification versus most restaurants don't. Or farmers markets. So keep in mind they might be asking for something in a certain way, like they might want a certain bag size or they might want clamshells, which are much more expensive. So think through all those details, but there's a lot of things to consider. But again, if it works, it works. Parker, oh wait, this is not related. Sorry, Parker. I fall into this trap every Q&A. I just want to answer everybody's questions, but I'm really trying to stick to answering questions based on the module. So, hey, Daniel, Homestead Farm. All right, growing boring crops. Yeah, peppers are seasonal for sure. Peppers grow in the summer, so I mean you can't grow them in the winter anyway, so they are a seasonal crop. I grew the Italian sweet peppers this year because they're one of my favorite things to grow, and I know that in the middle of the summer here, it's very hard to get anything to grow, and I know those survived last summer, at, 2 summers ago at Raleigh City Farm. So I did grow those. They weren't extremely profitable, but they're one of the things that was putting out a yield throughout the summer, so it worked out for me. Yeah, peppers can be good. Careful with hot peppers because the yields are crazy, and then, what do you do with all the hot peppers? But there's options out there. I would say to stay away from I know I talked about boring crops, but like stay away from like, for the most part, like bell peppers and stuff. Like I would try to go for something a little bit fancier if you can. You're not like those Italian sweet peppers, for example. Hopefully you guys know what I'm talking about. I've done a bunch of videos about them. They're great because they're approachable. They're not like hard to work with, but they're a little bit unique. So I think that was a great option for me because when I bring those to restaurants, they're like, oh, cool. This is like way better than all the bell peppers I buy and those sorts of things. Let's see here. Was there another question about peppers or specifically about seasonal crops? All right. Larson, he said how Jesse does most of his sales $3, 2 for $5 amount. Yep. Most people sell 6 ounces for $4. 4 ounces be 2. I'm trying to think about the amount he puts in. I don't remember the amount that Jesse puts in for his lettuce bags, but I think a lot of people were buying 2 at a time because they were fairly small. They might have been like 3 ounces. I don't know. I'd have to ask Jesse. I don't remember. But yeah, I think, let's see. 6 ounces for $4. I mean, 4 ounces for $3, that would give you roughly $12 a pound. It's not bad. I mean, it's not great for small bagging, but I mean, you have to be competitive with the people there, right? So part of that is like kind of at least going in where they're at or above. So yeah. Cool. Great questions today, JV. Welcome if you're just tuning in. It's been cool hanging out on Monday afternoons with you guys. All right, this didn't go up on the screen. JV, pros and cons of selecting and focusing on only one type of vegetable, maybe a few different types of varieties of them when nutrient-raising plants. I wouldn't pick one vegetable because if that fails, then you have nothing. And unless you have a lot of experience and you want to specialize in something, but generally most people getting into this don't have like 10 years of growing peppers, for example. So I would probably pick a few crops that are kind of boring and easy to grow, and then you'll see what you like to grow, what sells well, and then maybe you can specialize in less crops moving forwards. But keep in mind also, like, I think about pest and disease. Like if you have all one crop and something rolls in, it could take out your entire farm, and that's not a good business strategy. So I would probably have at least a couple to start with. And I'm going to talk more about diversity in terms of beds and biology, but I think it's important to have multiple things going on. I wouldn't want to just have a lettuce farm. I think that's a recipe for disaster in terms of pests and disease and stuff like that. Hopefully that makes sense. Hi, David. Hi, Dennis. Of the crops in my beds, which ones are the most productive, both in terms of yield and income? I think what I'm growing now, they're all amazing. In terms of money, it kind of varies a lot. Like lettuce is great when it's like really cruising. I've gotten 80 to 90 pounds off of one bed last spring on the first cut. So at $9-10 a pound. So that's a lot of money on a 50-foot bed. Lately, my carrot bed has been absolutely crushing it. Like I've been harvesting out of one bed for several weeks in a row and getting 30 pounds a week out of it. And so, that bed could be worth a lot of money too. So beets are awesome. When those are cruising, like I got a nice full heavy set of beets there. The kale, like I feel like I can't harvest enough. It just keeps growing back. So I think they're all pretty productive, and I've just sort of found which ones work in my system and which ones I can sell. And that's the ones I keep growing over and over again. But in terms of like straight up money and speed, it's probably lettuce. Like, because in the spring, it's probably in the ground for like 6 weeks, and I can get maybe 80 pounds off one cut. So second cut will be less if there is a second cut. So yeah, they vary a lot, but I've really stuck to those crops because they've done really well. Carrots are unbelievably profitable for sure. They're an underrated crop big time. I haven't done any mushroom growing. All right, Pizza Steve. Talking about farm fresh eggs. This isn't really related, but it kind of is. This will vary a ton, and I know this isn't really about vegetable growing. I was charging $6 a dozen to my restaurants, and they were paying it. That's all I know. Families would pay $7 easy if I was doing direct sales. I think you probably get more in my area, maybe $8 would be really pushing it, but it depends if you are conventional, non-GMO, organic, pasture-raised, all that stuff factors in. And for me, they didn't have access. The restaurants didn't have access to the stuff, so they were like, cool, that works. Again, it's based on your market and then all those things. For me, I was feeding them all non-GMO North Carolina inputs. So all the grain and stuff was from North Carolina. So that helped sell it as well. And he says, what's a good way to keep product costs low on the customer's end but still be able to make an income? Again, that goes back to what I said in that module. You have to calculate what you need to make on each crop so that you are profitable as a business and make enough money for your family. That's the minimum amount you should be charging your customers. Nora, yes, I should have mentioned this and I totally forgot, is selling starts. That can be very profitable, especially at farmers markets and other places. Yeah, that's super cool. We actually sold some at Raleigh City Farm too. We had a bunch donated, and then we sold some at our farm stand, and that worked out really well. Depending on the size, like if you were selling like a full-size tomato plant, like you could get more than $3 for that, I'm sure. Maybe, I don't know. Think about like go to a garden center or go to like Home Depot or Lowe's and see what they're charging, and then up it a little bit because you're gonna be doing it probably in a healthier way. Yeah, $3 for a plant. I mean, you're thinking the container, the soil, the seed, the energy you had to put into it. That's pretty cheap unless they're like super tiny. But yeah, that's a great way you can add money to your farm's stand. Oh wow, a lot of questions in here, guys, today. Thank you so much. Let's see here. Oh man, I'm losing track in here. Great questions in here, guys. Thank you. I love this. Maybe I'll try to talk a little bit faster. Do you weigh your bagged items? Absolutely. Everything gets weighed. I have a digital scale. Everything gets weighed. What do you think about selling a bundle of low-value crops with higher-value crops? Not like a CSA, but just like a few things together, like at a farmer's market. I think people are going to want choice. I could be wrong, but I think like maybe that sort of 1 for 3, 2 for 5 model helps bundle things together because people are like, if you're like, oh, it's $3, oh, but for $5 you can have 2, and maybe they'll throw something else in. I think people want options at a farmer's market because if they don't want carrots and lettuce, they'll just buy lettuce, and then if they want, you know what I mean? Like I think they're going to want options. You could bundle greens together like in mixes. So if you have lower valued greens that you need to bulk up a mix, like that's definitely a doable thing if you're selling like a braising mix or a salad mix, something like that. Thanks. Thank you. How long can you refrigerate your salad beets and carrots before you have to throw them away? I harvest everything the day before I sell it. So I don't keep things around very much. That being said, we'll have carrots in the fridge for a long time, like for our family. The best thing, if you're going to store like root vegetables, you make sure you get all the greens cut off because that's where it'll rot at the end. But they'll store for quite a while. I don't know. I just send them out. And that's also because I grow all year round. If you were storing crops to sell over the wintertime that you weren't growing all year round, then that could be something you need to figure out. I just don't have the experience storing stuff for very long. Sierra's asking about my salad mix and what makes it fancier. Yeah, I just think the like more spring mix looking. I was growing that heavy like big leaf lettuce, the Mir Cherokee Magenta. And it was great for eating. It was very hearty. The things they look for, it needs to like look pretty, and it also needs to have a lot of structure, or I think it's called loft. Like it has to stand up on the plate really well. And when they put dressing on it, they want to make sure it doesn't collapse, so it has some strength to it. What I hear from a lot of chefs is when they're buying hydroponic lettuce, it doesn't have the same structure in it, and it just kind of falls apart very quickly when they start putting things on it. Obviously, like other vegetables and nuts and fruit, whatever they put in the salad, and then putting the dressing on it, it'll sort of collapse. So, yeah, I think it's again, like, ask your chefs what they're looking for. But I found the foundation mix, like, everyone's like, yeah, great, this is awesome, I love it. Daniel, no, that we're keeping this real simple. Like, I don't have a lot of time. I'm here to answer questions. Unfortunately, I don't have a way to do that and manage that. So this is this is the only way I can make it work, Daniel. I'm sorry. How do you decide, CAD Your Dreams, how do you decide on quantity to grow when you first started, meaning how much you need to supply your first 1 or 2 customers and have enough to give away as samples for new customers? Well, if you're selling to restaurants, like, you're not going to get an account without samples anyways, and it's just like a one-time thing basically for a sample. So that doesn't even factor in. I guess try to grow as much as you can and then go and try to sell it and then make adjustments. I don't think yeah, you got to get your production going before you can start even selling stuff. So, again, it goes back to, like, figuring out how much you need to make in a year or in a month or whatever, and then you can figure out how much you can make on each crop per bed, and then do that napkin math and figure that out. But yeah, just especially when you get started, your yields are going to be pretty bad. So try to grow as much as you can. I would say that. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, definitely keep in mind seasonality. I mean, it's growing food, so. Good price for potatoes. I have no clue. I've never grown potatoes for sale, so maybe someone can chime in here. Thoughts on doing microgreens? I used to grow a ton of microgreens. I've talked about this before. My heart's not in microgreens anymore, and I think I talked about it in this module, actually. So, yeah, I used to compost them. Yeah, microgreens can be very profitable. I just didn't want to grow them anymore. Cody, do you have any ugly vegetables that you price differently or package in a unique way? That's a great question, Cody. I personally don't do that. I don't know, maybe there's a market for that. For me, we just wind up eating most of the ugly stuff, or it gets composted. It is a little bit unfortunate, but I only have so much time to manage all this stuff, and so I always try to put out the best quality product, and I have like a standard that I holding myself to, and also what my chefs expect. And I don't want to send them anything that's subpar and be like, hey, I gave you some stuff, but it's not that good, like, I'll charge them less. Like, no, they expect a certain thing, and that's kind of the standard that I hold it to. That being said, there's probably ways you can do that. I haven't gone there. We just wind up eating it most of the time. Yeah, we were talking about microgreens. I used to grow a lot of microgreens, but don't anymore. Hi, Daniel. Yeah, a lot of the things that I think about, which I mentioned in the module when I'm choosing a crop, is how long it takes to grow, what the yields are going to be like, and if it's going to be profitable. So a lot of those crops, like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, those like long season brassicas are tough because they take up a lot of space. The yields aren't awesome all the time, and they're low value crops for the most part. So those are great in CSAs and stuff like that, where you can like say, hey, we're going to have cauliflower or broccoli or Brussels sprouts for a few weeks, and people are going to get excited about it. But in terms of like on small acreage, trying to get the maximum amount of money out of it, I think those are hard to do. So yeah, my crop selection, I mean, lettuce is in the ground for like 5 or 6 weeks before it gets harvested. Carrots are, I think, like a 60-day crop, so like a 2-month crop. Beets are a little bit less than that, I think. Kale's a bit longer, but it's one of those that I keep growing all winter, and it's very hardy, so I just let that thing roll. But baby kale is super quick. Besides tomatoes, hey Brian, what are some crops that you've grown in the past that you no longer grow or wouldn't recommend for a new market gardener? Yeah, tomatoes was my was my answer because of my squirrels. I feel like I've tried a lot of stuff. Most of the time that I stop growing something, I don't have a great answer for you to give you one crop. Most of the stuff I wind up not growing is stuff that doesn't sell, or I keep trying over and over again and doesn't work. I'll think about that. I don't have... Tomatoes are awesome. I love growing and eating tomatoes. I think brassicas in general. Yeah, some of those long season brassicas, like broccoli and stuff, I think those are hard because the pests eat them pretty fiercely right when they're trying to get ready. So some of those can be kind of tough to grow. I would say some of those crops that take a long time, take up a lot of space, and then have insect pressure, I'd say is hard. Prairie heirloom, selling at a farmer's market, it'll be selling heirloom produce, the boring crops, but more unique colors and shapes. Cool. Is that working for you? Like, is there a market for that? Are you able to get the prices that you need? That's cool. I mean, that's a way for you to be different than the rest of the market. That's really neat. I think I talked about this in the third module about growing microgreens. I stopped because I was leaning on microgreens too much. I was having crop failures in the field, and then I would just keep growing microgreens, and then I would get even worse about growing crops and pay less attention. And then I got burned a bunch of times with growing microgreens with restaurants. They were like, hey, I want 5 pounds a week, and I'd have all the trays ready, and they're like, oh, we don't need any this week. And I'm like, I already started you all these trays, and I just didn't feel like it resonated with me as a grower. I wanted to grow in the soil, and microgreens can kind of grow wherever. They're just very simple. Great yields, great profit if you can sell them. For me, my heart wasn't in it after a while, and so I really wanted to be growing vegetables out in the field and focus on that. So that's kind of where I stopped, but they can be profitable for sure, and you can do them in lots of small spaces. Spirit Mike, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Started the food independence movement in Tampa, Florida, trying to make Tampa and St. Petersburg a food-growing powerhouse. That's awesome. Very cool. Thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. Yep. Yeah, I mean, this is like right up front with everything I say. It's like, this is what I do, but you need to figure out what works for you. I think that's pretty much the theme of everything I've ever done on YouTube. I can only speak from my experience. I don't know other markets. I don't know what works for you. I also don't sell to a farmer's market, so I don't have to worry about that competition. My competition is very limited in terms of my restaurants and the other farms they're selling to, and I just ask them what they want, and I work with them that way. But yeah, you got to make sure that you're competitive in terms of what you offer, your prices, the quality, all those things. And as I said before, like I saw your comment where you're at a farmer's market and you're selling heirloom produce because those things don't exist. That's awesome. You just got to make sure they're profitable for you. There's definitely a lot of models. I've been very upfront with like, this is my model. This is not the model. There's so many ways of doing this. In fact, my way probably doesn't work for most of you. So I can only really talk about what my experience is. Gang of Greenhorns. We talked about this a little bit earlier. I haven't personally done this, but yeah, you could definitely sell starts. I think that's definitely a possibility. You just got to think about where you're going to be selling them and how that's going to work. Nora, yeah, this is a good thing to talk about, is about inflation. I think a lot of us have set prices like that we're kind of working with, but everything's getting more expensive right now, so don't be afraid to charge more because we all need more money to live on. And, like be competitive, but also at the same time, like get what you need for your products. Is there a good way to market varieties you've developed yourself? I haven't done that before. I just buy seeds. Let people try them. I don't know where you're selling, Annie, so maybe you told me and I don't remember. Yeah, bring them to the market if that's what you're doing. Let people try them, get some feedback, talk about why they're so cool. Some of us can't do math today. Yes, we can all do math. I taught high school math. We can all do math. We have to do some math, don't forget. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to run a business. But yeah, you can go by what other people are charging. But at the end, you'll see like how much money you brought in from a market or a week selling to restaurants or whatever, and use that to figure out. You don't have to do the math. You'll have your total, I guess. Don't be afraid of math. You got to figure that out. How many ounces do I weigh my lettuces? They go in 2-pound bags for my restaurants. That's what we're weighing. When I was doing it at Raleigh City Farm, we were doing 5-ounce bags, which are just under 1/3 of a pound. Yeah. Salanova Foundation Mix. That's what I'm growing. I have no idea about butternut squash, how much you would charge. Try to figure out what your yield is per bed and think about what you need to get. But look at the competition. That's usually the best thing there. Yeah, so instead of letting food go to waste in a fridge, you find a local charity that could use it like a soup kitchen. Yes, this is great. One of the restaurants that I supply food to, hopefully you've seen that video, was A Place at the Table, which is a pay-what-you-can cafe. Whenever they do buy food for me that I actually sell to them at a discount, but when I have extra, I always give it to them. But if it's stuff that I have to wash, dry, package, and store that's either slightly damaged or whatever, I don't have the time for that, unfortunately. And it's kind of a bummer because you want to give that food to people, but at the same time, like, you're working for free at that point. If I have extra time and energy, like, I would do it, but sometimes I don't. But if I go through and let's say I harvest all my lettuce for the week and I have extra after I've washed it, then I'll just give it to them. So yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to move some extra stuff. All right. Thanks for all the questions, everybody. A couple local restaurants interested in buying our produce. Any idea how much lettuce I need to grow to supply 25 pounds per week? You need 25 pounds per week. Sorry, that was a bad answer. Yeah, you got to start realizing how much you can get per bed depending on the type of lettuce you're growing. So maybe that's a half a bed a week, depending on the size of your beds. For me, I have 50-foot beds. I probably get between, 15, 80 pounds per bed. So for me, it would be like half a bed a week. And always have more because it's good to have a little bit extra so that you're not shorting your customers. What are some resources utilized for crop selection, rotation, pricing, even your growing of the specific crops? There's been a lot of research over the years. I've said before, when I started, I was really influenced by J.M. Fortier and Curtis Stone, their books, The Market Gardener and The Urban Farmer. They were kind of my playbook for a while. I was also watching as much YouTube as I could find on the information. So that's kind of got started, and then it was just mostly trial and error, like what grows well, and then talking to customers and figuring out pricing. And again, talking to other growers, like carrots, like which variety do you grow? And then, 3 out of 4 people are like, you should grow Mokum. So I'm growing Mokum and they work well. I think there's a lot of, there's no playbook for your farm. And that's, I think, one of the hardest things in getting started. And also for me as an educator, because I can only talk about what I've done and some things on other farms, but everyone's is going to be so different. So yeah, pick a few crops, try to get good at growing them and see what works. And, if you want to grow carrots, for example, pick like 4 varieties that are well known. Ask your seed company what'll work. That's the other thing I always say is call your seed company, ask them what'll be good in your context, and they'll give you some things to try. plant out some beds. Like if you have a 50-foot bed, break it up into 3 or 4 sections and just plant different varieties and mark them and see which ones do better and which ones do worse, and then you'll figure it out pretty quickly, especially different times of year and stuff like that. Yep, Annie, I've done interplanting crops. I'll talk about that in a future module. Again, if there's any information that you're looking for that you want to know, not just you, Annie, but everybody, go to my YouTube channel, and if you click on the actual channel, there's a search up in the upper right. You can type in interplanting, and anything with interplanting will show up. Anything with lettuce, you type that in, it'll show up. So I have videos on pretty much every topic related to what I've done, and I will cover probably almost everything I've ever done on my farm in this course, including interplanting. Microgreens and eggs. Yeah, I did that routine for a while. Microgreens and eggs for sure. I was doing mainly pea and sunflower. Those were my go-to towards the end of when I was growing microgreens. They were the easiest to grow. They were the easiest to sell, and they had the biggest yields for sure. Peas were just like so easy. You didn't even have to wash them. The sunflower sheets you have to get the hulls off of, so it was a little more steps. Gang of greenhorns, expect your yields to be bad. Yeah, I'd say 1/4 to 1/3 of whatever you think you should get. I haven't looked at JM and Curtis's numbers in a long time, so I'd be curious if I go back and sort of look at them and see like what I get versus what they're talking about. But yeah, it's not always like a 1/3 on every bed. It's kind of an average. Like some beds will be a total loss, and some beds will be really good, and some will be eh. So I'd say 1/4 to 1/3 probably of what the guys that are really good at getting it for your first little bit of time. And I remember when I started, I was like, no way, I'm going to be so much better than that. Like, no, you're not nearly that good the first round. So I'd have to go back and look at their numbers. I don't know what they are off the top. I haven't looked at those books in a while. Also keep in mind those books are kind of getting old. Not that like what they're talking about is irrelevant, but I don't know. Sharing my pricing. What do you sell your peppers for? Oh my God, I don't remember. I don't remember what I sold the peppers for. I just don't remember. Tomatoes. I was selling, this was now in 2019. We were doing pints of cherry tomatoes. They're maybe $3.50. I don't remember. $3.50, $4 a pint. I can't remember. I'm sorry, Brian. I just don't remember. I gave you the numbers in that video because that's just what I'm growing right now, and that's what I'm doing. Global Green Book. Good seeing here. Heather, why is market scene so weak here in Louisiana? I'm jumping in both feet. Why I'm missing it? I don't know why. Yeah, I mean, this goes back to a previous module, but everyone's market is so different. There's some areas where everyone's into organic local food, and there's some areas where no one has a clue what's going on with that. So you might have an uphill battle, or you might have to drive to another market. I don't know. Thank you so much. Just reading through comments here, or questions and comments. Yes, I will address this in a future module when I talk about direct seeding and transplanting, and I'll go over all the crops that I grow. So I'll get to that for sure. Austin, I will go over crop planning in the crop planning video. There's going to be a module about that. So If you want to know information before then, again, go to my YouTube channel. There's a search box, type in crop planting. I made a video or two about that over the last few years. This year I bought my seeds from Osborne. I just bought Mokum from them. So I still had leftover lettuce seed. Salanova you can only get from Johnny's. And I still had beet seed left over. So I bought squash and carrots from Osborne. Hey Bonnie, good to see you. How do you deal with pushy customers who don't pay full price? I can really only speak for customers. Generally, those are the customers that aren't customers anymore. So if I go in and say, hey, I need to get $10 a pound for lettuce, and they're like, I pay $3. And I'm like, well, we can't do business together. It's just the way it is. And I just have those conversations with my customers and say, hey, like I'm gonna grow kale. Can you guys do $4.50 a pound? And they go, yeah, we can do that, or no, we can't. And you either don't grow it or you find other customers. So just the way it works. You have to get the money you need to be profitable. Nice. I know it's not related, but yeah, definitely Jesse's book is great. Scotty, I really appreciate it. Thank you. Brian, what would you say your biggest pricing related mistake? Not charging enough. I think that's always my problem as a farmer, as an artist, as a videographer, I feel like I'm always not charging enough for my products or my services. I always want to feel like I am giving a fair value to people and providing, good experience or provide, quality product. It's always not charging enough. That's my biggest pricing related mistake, because then you're working really hard and you're not getting much out of it. Like, for example, the kale that I'm growing right now, I was selling it at a cheaper price because I was like, oh, it's large size braising kale. And I started thinking about how much time I was putting into harvesting it. And I'm thinking, man, I got to charge more for this. And I went back to my chefs and go, hey, I got to get more for this. They're like, okay, cool. Most of them said yes. Some of them said, oh, we're not going to buy it anymore. I totally understand that. So my biggest problem is just not charging enough. I think that's my issue for sure. Have you tried any colors or varieties of beets? Did you stick with boring but well-producing red? Yes. I think the first year I grew some gold beets too, because I thought it'd be cool to grow more than one colored beet. But boring crops. They're just predictable and easy, and everyone knows what to do with a red beet. It's just one of those things. You just gotta grow what does well and people recognize. And if you go to the farmer's market and there's 10 people with red beets and you want to be different, grow gold ones, grow something else. But for the most part, I've personally, from my experience, found that growing the boring crops is the best thing. And just as we're 45 minutes now, I just want to stop and take a minute again to thank the sponsor of the entire course, Paper Pot Co. Again, go check out what they have to offer: tools, supplies. Diego's podcast is awesome. Farm Small, Farm Smart. So much good information there. Diego's been doing this for a long time. I even learned a lot from Diego when I was getting into farming, so it's really cool now to work with him. But also, there's a lot of resources on the PaperPot site, so paperpot.co/Josh. There's written resources about this course, so go check it out. And thanks again to PaperPot for sponsoring all this. So just want to say that and say, hey, go check them out as well. It'd be great to give your support to them. I really appreciate it. Robert, I don't know if I understand this question. Was this piggyback on something else? Robert, so do you grow arugula to add to your salad mix? No. I think I'm done growing baby greens for the most part. I was growing a lot of them in the spring, but I've just kind of found the crops that work well for me. There's issues with baby greens that I found in my area too, in terms of sales, but also in terms of bed flips and stuff. And I'll get into that in other modules and some of the intricacies with growing baby greens. Arugula sells really well. Like every time I have arugula, which I haven't planted in a while, like the chefs really, really like it. I don't add it to my mix. I think a lot of people have been doing that for a long time, is growing other kinds of greens like beet greens, arugula, baby kale, spinach, stuff like that to bulk up their lettuce. But frankly, like my mix, like I just grow the four varieties that are in the Salanova Foundation mix, and it just looks like a mix, and the yields are great, and it's simple. And for me, when I'm trying to have multiple beds that have different days to maturity, right, different lengths of growing in the beds, I'm trying to mix those together and all that stuff, like the less crops I'm growing, the more effective I'm going to be at them, and the more I'm going to have of each one. So to me, like that mix is a mix already, and I don't have to like worry about mixing other things in, if that makes sense. So if there's a demand for arugula though, man, arugula grows fast and yields are usually good. So people that want arugula, but I don't add anything else to my mix. Thanks everyone for coming today. Appreciate it. It's good to hang out. Thanks, Mala. And he's probably having enough to sell. I feel like I'm always short on everything. I never have enough to sell. This isn't related to this, but we'll talk about amendments in a future module. Craig, this was half the module. I recommend you check that out. I talk about how I determine prices. But I don't have a real time frame for reassessing. That's a good thing I should probably work in. Amanda, you're welcome. Yeah, Diego's awesome. He's so focused on his education and his farming channel, his YouTube channel and his podcast. He does a great job with those, and he'll say like, "Oh, this one's sponsored by Paper Pot," but yeah, it's a separate thing for him. If you want to raise your prices, have a conversation. It's all about relationships and communication. How do you choose what to grow when markets require you to bring the tangible products first? Interesting. Like selling to a restaurant or selling to a farmer's market? I'm not sure I understand the question, but I've said before, it's kind of like the chicken and the egg. Like you have to start with something just to get it going and then prove that you can do it. You know, bring some samples to your customers. Start with the boring crops, as I like to say. Things that grow well in your area, things that you like to eat. So if they don't sell, you can eat them. And then you can make adjustments. You're not going to hit a home run the first year. So keep that in mind. I have not sold any herbs. I asked my chefs about herbs, and they were kind of not really interested. So I decided not to grow them. I thought about doing herbs and edible flowers this year as add-ons. I never got around to it. There wasn't a huge demand for it, especially with COVID. People were like, yeah, right, edible flowers, all of our stuff is takeout right now. So I didn't wind up going there, and I also got too busy to take on more projects. When I say chef, it's a small 10-seat place or a big 80 table. I'd say my restaurant accounts are, how big are they? Probably 50 to 100 seats, something like that. I have to think about it. Maybe it's a little bit more. I don't know the numbers. I just walk in. I'm never. It's not. You know, they're never open when I'm there. So they're not 10-seat places though. They're like legit restaurants. Not that 10-seat is not legit, but yeah, they have more seats than that. And they have bars and a full-on restaurant. We sold some fruit at Raleigh City Farm. I don't remember the details. We had some blackberries we were growing there and some figs and some other berries. I don't remember. But it was kind of like we just put them in pints and just guessed on the prices. I haven't grown anything personally on my farm, no, fruit-wise. Robert, that's a great point. I always heard if no one is complaining about your prices, then you're not charging enough. Yeah, like keep pushing your prices until someone says no, and then you can dial it back. That's a great way of putting it. I like that. Oh, it's on your grocery stores and supermarkets. Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, like I would say, hey, what kind of stuff are you looking for? Like if they're looking for local food, they may say, I don't have a carrot guy, I don't have a greens guy, and that'll probably steer you in the right direction. But I would probably go into the supermarket and you'll see what their local products are, and you want to find something that they don't have, and then start growing that. I guess if that's your goal to sell into those markets, that's what I'd probably do. It's kind of like common sense sort of stuff. Like, well, what are they missing? What can I sell them? And then roll in and be like, oh, I see you don't have any lettuce. I'm growing lettuce. Wouldn't you like to try some? I don't know, approach like that. I probably wouldn't say it like that, but you guys, I think you get what I'm saying. Yeah, same idea with the farmer's market. All right, cool. We are down to the bottom of the questions. How is that possible? Was I talking too quickly today? Cool. All right, so the next module is about finding land and farm design. That's right. That's going to be coming out on Thursday. So that'll be really cool. Talking about a lot of efficiencies on your farm, how to lay out your farm, decisions related to that, how to look at land and try to figure that out. So a lot of cool stuff there. And then we'll get into soil practices and beds and stuff like that after that. So that'll be cool. That's what I'm working on this week. So, all right, let's open this up to general questions. I'll be happy to hang out for another 20, 30 minutes, take some questions. Hey, John. No worries. And keep in mind that these streams stay up, so you can go back and watch them too. Although, I don't know if you want to watch them. Yep, I think we're done with the related questions. I'm happy to take general questions, so bring them in. Whatever you guys want to talk about is cool. As I said earlier, I was a little confused because I'm like a week and a half ahead of everything. So I'm always like, what was I talking about? What was in this module? But yeah, let me know what questions you guys have. I've only grown corn once, and it wasn't successful because I had pest issues. Pretty much nothing will grow in wet clay. Like nothing likes to have their roots completely soggy. Dennis, how long do you think you will be farming? I have no idea. I was never even going to be a farmer in the first place, so I have no idea. But I have a nice farm system now, and it's really nice to work in this environment. And yeah, I don't know. And taking the summers off will really revitalize me in terms of like motivating me to farm. So, Dennis, I have no idea. I mean, if you asked me 5 years ago, I would say I've never been a farmer. So I don't know. What were you charging for my box program again? I was charging based on what was in each box. So every week was based on what was in the box, plus I think $5 for delivery. Those were like retail prices. So that's what I was doing then. I have no idea if that was a good idea. Probably not. I did have it maxed out at a certain point. So I told, it wasn't like going to drop a $50 box on a family, when they're expecting to pay 25 or 30. So that's what I did. I just charged based on what was in the box. Brian, which crop are we talking about? I don't even know. I'm getting confused here. Oh, microgreens? I don't even remember. You guys are asking me about stuff from like 3 years ago. I was selling to chefs at that point. I was selling them in whole pounds, and I was just putting them in bags. It was like 1 pound, 2 pound, 3 pound. For families, I had some old video. You know what? If you go to my channel, I said this already twice in the stream, but if you go on my YouTube channel, there's a search bar, search for microgreens. Every video that I used to do about microgreens will be in there. You'll see pricing, yield, how much I plant for everything. I would probably be doing the same stuff if I was doing it now, so I'd recommend you go check that out versus me rambling about stuff I can't remember. I'm sorry. All right, Danielle, I live across the street from the busiest bakery in town, and our local supermarket was shut down. What would you suggest as the fast way to grab this business? Spring, New Jersey, and nothing to sell. Can you set up on farm, like a farm stand on your street? You just put up a sign. You know, people. Obviously, if it's a supermarket, there's gonna be traffic there. Grab people's attention. That might be one of the best things. I don't know, just an idea. There's a lot of quick growing crops. I mean, some stuff is, you could plant and it's ready in a month. Some baby greens, stuff like that. Like you grow arugula. Just pick a couple things that are simple and grow them, and they'll be really fast. Microgreens is an option too. Toucan Surf Club. Hey Josh, I'm currently an ag student. Nice. Hopefully they're teaching you guys some of this kind of stuff. What is something you wish you had focused a bit more on learning before taking the leap into farming? Marketing, for sure. Marketing is huge. I've told this story before where my previous business was a homebrew store selling ingredients and equipment for people homebrewing their own beer, and I did no marketing. I was scared of it. It was the biggest problem with that business was marketing because I wasn't getting increasing sales over time. So marketing, absolutely, for sure. If you're an ag student, you're probably really into growing stuff. That's probably not the hard part. It's probably the business side of it that is stuff you should be focusing on. How long can you keep lettuce, carrots, beets in the ground when they're ready? Depends on the time of year. In the summer, pretty much no time. When it's ready, it's got to come out. In the wintertime, stuff can hang around a lot longer. So in the summer, if you leave it too long, it'll bolt, which is when the plant stretches out and starts to flower. It tastes really bitter. Also, different times of the year, there might be pest problems, so you need to yank them when they're ready. It varies a lot. But in the wintertime, one of the reasons I love winter growing is it's way slower paced. Like if I miss a harvest 1 week or I didn't have enough sales, usually it's fine the next week or 2 weeks later. Like carrots, they just stay in the ground until you want to harvest them pretty much. So yeah, it varies a lot depending on the season. What cover crops do you plant over the summer away from farming? I haven't decided about this yet, Daniel. I was just having a conversation about this a few days ago. I'm probably going to tarp, just straight up tarp, tunnel 1 and 2. And tunnel 3 I'll consider a cover crop because that has the worst soil under the lasagna beds there because that was not on the farm area before. I haven't decided on cover crops yet. There's some classic summer ones, but again, I haven't gotten there yet. It's like so far away from my brain right now. I usually just go on recommendations. I go to my farm store and go, what should I plant? And they just tell me. So I don't know yet. I also, if I had 3 tarps to cover all 3 tunnels, I probably would just tarp them all. That's like the least amount of maintenance, but I don't. So I might cover crop the 3rd one. Yeah, Gene's here. I don't know, he comes by like every other week or so to help out. Mostly we just hang out and chat, but we do a little bit of work for sure. Yeah, Gene's awesome. I have not asked chefs about flowers, so not sure. My lettuce is all transplanted. I have never grown herbs. You're welcome, Brian. Greatest regret? I have no idea, Annie. Try to think on the positives here. Yeah, carrots store forever. In summer, and yep, Scotty, yep, summer they'll start stretching out, bolt, and going to seed. CSA, I would say, which module was that? Number 2, researching your market. I would recommend that. Generally, I try to talk people out of starting a CSA if you're starting a farm from scratch. Just because they're the hardest to be successful at. Adam, hello. It's first year with a high tunnel. Any advice on growing crops that do well in tunnels versus what should stay in the field, and probably growing for the farm with extra produce, for the fam with extra produce going to an on-farm stand? You can grow anything really in a tunnel. I think the only things that are hard are things that grow really, really tall, especially if you're in a caterpillar tunnel. But I grow everything in a tunnel. So I don't know where you are as well. I don't think you said that. I mean, everything you grow in the tunnel is going to do better. You're going to have more control over it, those sorts of things. The other nice thing about being in a tunnel, like if you're growing greens, is they're a lot cleaner. They're a lot easier to wash and stuff like that. So some stuff does better in tunnels. I guess that's what you're asking about. Like tomatoes, they do better in tunnels for the most part. They like their leaves like staying dry. There's probably some other crops too, but you can kind of grow everything everywhere. But I just prefer to do mostly in the tunnels if I can. I had not grown potatoes, so I don't have information for you on potatoes. We did sweet potatoes once; those go in the summer. Other than that, maybe someone else in here has experience with that. The spacing for my carrots, I don't remember. I use the Jang seeder. When I do my direct seeding module, I'll give you all those numbers. I don't know them off the top of my head. I only direct seed one crop right now, so whatever the Jang is set at, I just use it. I don't know. I don't remember. I would try to make something up right now, but it probably wouldn't be right. So I will. I'll give you that information during the direct seeding module. Promise. Ronald, why isn't this on no-till? This is my course. This is my thing. It's on the Josh Sattin farming channel, sponsored by PaperPot. I do work for no-till growers, but I'm doing my own thing as well. So this is the Sattin Hill Farm course. So that's why it's on my channel. Brewing question. Dry hops or fresh hops? Always dry hops. Pretty much always pelleted. Any hop recommendations for home brewer that can make and drink? It's been so long. I don't know. It depends on where you are. I think different hops grow in different regions. I haven't really grown hops before, so. You can often get the rhizomes from your local homebrew store. I'd probably ask them because they'll probably know what grows best in your area. Hi, Jillian. Farmers in the hot, humid south, they're strictly growing in the fields. I think everyone's kind of a mixed bag when it comes to field growing and house growing. And I think most farmers I know are trying to cover as much as possible with tunnels. But I think everyone's kind of a mix. I only know a handful that are completely covered. But I think everyone's trying to cover as much as possible. What have you added to your clay to break it up? I added gypsum. I don't know if it worked or not. I have no way I didn't do like a side-by-side. For me, it's a lot of my bed practices and no-till stuff that happens over time. I'll get into that in future modules, but broad forking, adding compost, leaving roots in the ground, all that kind of stuff. I don't let things go to seed. I don't save seed. It's for me to be profitable in a small scale on a market garden. You can't be doing any of that stuff. There's no time for it. Plus, the seeds I'm getting, like the lettuce seeds, they're all hybrids anyways, so yeah, no. By the time you're wasting all that time from harvest to seed, you could have gotten another whole succession in there. So if the goal is to not buy anything, then sure. If the goal is to make as much money as possible or to grow as much food as possible on small acreage with the least amount of effort, then I would say don't bother with that stuff. Just keep putting new seeds in the ground or new transplants. How should one market when you're bad at it? Amanda, great question. Find someone to help you. That's, like if there's anything in life that you're not good at, find someone that can help you with it. Marketing is definitely one of those things for a lot of people. So that's what I'd recommend. If it's something that you want to learn and get good at, how do you learn how to do anything? You do some research, you look at other people, what they're doing, you ask for some advice, you practice, those kinds of things. But if it's something that you just don't want to deal with, then get someone to help you with it, Devon, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Really sandy Florida soil. Oh, man, yeah. Built my beds up 6 to 7 inches. I mulch and use leaves, but some of my beds become very hydrophobic during summer. Any tips? Yeah. You're growing in the summer in Florida? I know a lot of farmers that don't even do that. Yeah, the best thing to do is just build up organic matter over time, which sounds like you're doing. It's going to take a while. Soil isn't one of those things that you can necessarily just change quickly. Leaving the roots in the ground helps a ton. They break down and create the channels in the soil, but it sounds like you have loose soil, so that's not really an issue. Organic matter and frequent waterings. That's probably the best thing. Putting some shade cloth over it in the middle of the heat will help too. Keep the soil cooler and probably limit some evaporation. I'd probably recommend that. But when you have sandy soil, man, yeah, it's hard. The water just wants to run right through. I've talked to farmers in the South or people growing on sandy soil, and I'm just like, I can't even understand it. I have the opposite problem. So, yeah. My advice usually is organic matter, leaving roots in the ground, keeping the soil covered. So doing some interplanting, maybe growing some other like low-level stuff, and maybe using shade cloth. I'd probably say those kinds of things. Hey, Dan. Decided to not grow in the summer. How did your chefs take it? What do they do for a substitute? Are there any concern they won't have you back in the fall? Yeah, I mean, at least my chefs were cool with it when I talked to them about it. They're probably not happy about it, but they were like, I get it. Like, I get it. They know how hot it is outside. And a lot of them I did struggle with through the summer when I had much smaller yields, and they were like not happy. They weren't getting stuff. They're like, yeah, just take the summer off. Like, it sucks for them. They want the food. I haven't had them say that they were concerned about me coming back. That hasn't really come up. So I don't know. I haven't had that come up, but it's again, it's about relationships and communication. So I'm just not doing the the summer growing again. When I go to your channel and search, it brings up everyone else's videos also. I don't know how YouTube search works, man. I can't help you, Ronald. There's so much to the SEO of YouTube and Google in general that I can't even wrap my head around. Devon, what are my thoughts about Korean natural farming and Jadam? They're super cool. I think that there's a lot of cool research going on. I think there's a lot of potential in a lot of that stuff. I have not really incorporated it in what I do. I know a lot of people in the space are experimenting with it and are using it more. I've come to the point now with my growing methods that it's very simple and kind of just straightforward, and I do like one thing or just a few things and just kind of repeat it. But there's a lot of potential out there. There's some cool stuff. I think that needs to be taken further along for sure. I just haven't played with it very much. You're welcome. Who's your pioneer? Yeah, your extension agents can be helpful as well. Yeah, extension agents, other local growers. Browntown Organics, good to see you. Let's see, your thoughts on municipal compost, decomposed leaves, I believe in the stuff it acts to. Yeah, when sourcing compost in general, which module is that? I can't remember anymore. I just recorded a whole segment on that. Yeah, ask around and see if other people have used it. A lot of times you can get a lot of leaf mold really cheap from municipal sources. I know that's the case here in Raleigh. It's great, and I think leaves generally, I mean, nothing is like guaranteed, but generally leaves are pretty clean of like stuff you don't want in there. People are pretty crazy with their lawns, but leaves, like, not really. Like, people aren't really spraying trees with stuff, so leaves are pretty good. Yeah, if you can get a good deal on it, I'd probably go after it if you just need a bunch of organic matter for sure. But see if you can find someone that's gotten it before and can give you some feedback about it. Thanks, Big Mike. Oh, you used to be a teacher. That's cool. Practical gardening rules on farming employment are pretty lax. Yep. What were your thoughts on getting hourly help, interns, students, workers? Okay, so my whole thing with this is I don't have any employees at my farm, and the main reason for that is I wanted to keep my farm at my house super simple. It's at my house. I don't really want random people here. Not that employees would be random people, but my family's here. My kids and wife are here. Like, this is my house. I try to keep it private. Now, at Raleigh City Farm, we had interns, and they were unpaid, and I was not happy about it. And I was trying my best to get them paid, but the organization I was working with were unwilling to try to make that happen, and there's nothing I can do about it. I believe that people should be paid for their work, even interns, I think, should get paid. I think people should be paid a living wage because these people are working their butts off and making the whole farm possible work. So, yeah, I don't have like numbers and things like that. I think it depends, but I think they should get paid for sure. I think unpaid internships are crazy. That's just my opinion. That's kind of all I have to say about that. 2 feet apart, too close. Depends on the peppers. I think I planted my peppers 1 feet apart, my sweet peppers. I think. Want to create videos but live on a busy highway, stress on how to overcome the road sound. Oh, man. Yeah, the best thing, we're not even talking about farming. The best thing to eliminate noise is to get the microphone as close to the person talking as possible. So I'd probably try a lav mic, you can put on your shirt. That's probably the best thing you could do to eliminate road noise. Maybe keep yourself away from the road noise, like have your back to the road. Try to find different times of day where it's quieter. It's hard. That's a problem when you're trying to record videos. For me, it's always airplanes. You probably have seen in videos, you'll hear airplanes flying over. Sometimes I stop when they're going over. Sometimes I don't. Tyler, yes, I feel your pain. I don't feel your pain. I hear you. I was talking about this. I think it was today I was recording about this. Yeah, it's hard getting compost in a lot of places. And if you have to do all your own composting, then you have to bring in a lot of materials. So it can get very, very tricky for sure. I hear you. Yeah, I guess you could do a voiceover as well, but you don't want to do that for everything. I wouldn't think. All right, let's see here. Kind of down to the bottom of the questions. Any last questions coming in? Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. Any last questions, guys? So module 4 will be about finding land and farm design. That'll be on Thursday. I'm currently working on the 5th module, which is prepping soil and creating beds. That's going to be a pretty lengthy module. There's a lot of things to talk about in there. But after that, we'll get into no-till stuff, crop planning, infrastructure, tunnels. The list goes on. We'll be doing this for the next 15, 16, 17 weeks, whatever it is. So a lot more to come. I really appreciate everybody, the support, following along. Please go check out Paperpot Co. for additional resources, Diego's podcast, and of course supporting them with purchasing tools and supplies. If you'd like to support my channel and the work I do, again, there's a PayPal link down below. Any support is greatly appreciated. Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate coming on a Monday afternoon to chat. Hopefully you've been getting a lot out of the course, and I've been really enjoying putting this together, and hopefully everyone's having a good late winter, early spring. Take care. We'll see you guys next week.